right here, man, that you play when you feeling down on your isn't right. Play this shit right here, resuscitate your pimping and get you right back on your mission, right? For you hoes, just that shit you play when you ain't feeling like super hoe today. Play this shit right here and to spark up your hoeing and get you right back going. You dig this? Pimps for real, don't mistake it for. All right. Messed up the momentum, man. These damn devices tripping. All right, let me get everybody up in here. Okay, wait. First, let me do this. Okay, give me just a second while I get shit together, Excuse my pimping, man. Device is really tripping on the pimp. But we got it together now, though, so it's all good. I just hate when stuff like that happens because it kind of puts a damper on the momentum, but we still good, though. Y'all give me just a second. Appreciate your patience with a pimp. Just hold on. Okay. Damn, now. Just doing a couple of things and then we gonna get it popping. Chopping and popping this game about campaigning with other gentlemen, because it could be a beautiful thing and it could be a disastrous thing. You dig? Okay. Damn, man, I hate when that shit happens. Okay. All right. Yeah, Fun Facts Podcast. You didn't get a notification because I just started this live on the spot right now, because the original live that was scheduled, the camera was tripping, so I had to restart things real quick. But we here now, though. Excuse my pimping for the technical difficulties and for the delay and all that bullshit. But we here. And once again, man, y'all already know what to do. Wipe your feet off at the door when you step into a pimp's domain. Hit that like button, the thing that look like that right there. And YouTube family in the house, Instagram family in the house. Appreciate y'all tuning in and tapping in. And y'all already know my first order of business. Got to hydrate my game. Put some of this good old love in my body. I strongly advise you to do the same. Cheers to the game. Yeah, we're going to talk about, campaigning, man. Campaigning with your P partners. Campaigning with your friends, or, what have you. You dig? And for those of y'all unfamiliar with the terminology of campaigning, I ain't talking about running for, political election, but running to be the top selection for the young ladies. You dig? Yeah, man, campaigning, man. On a mission to go be elected by the top selection. You dig? And some people are great campaign partners, and others are terrible campaign partners. Some cats just don't know how to campaign with the pimping, man. You squares call it a wing, man, but we just call ourselves P partners, man. And some P partners is just terrible campaign partners, right? But we about to get into it though. Now, the all-time Hall of Fame favorite P partner of anybody who has ever campaigned with him, if they keep that shit real, would be Sinful the P, right? No comparison in any kind of way with anybody. Far as a campaign partner, Sinful the P was the best. And, he campaigned with a lot of people that ended up hating on him later on. But if they keep that shit 100, they will tell you that nobody is better to campaign with than Sinful the P, right? And another thing that I don't know of anybody who has done more of this than Sinful the P. I've done it quite often. I know some other P's who do it, but nobody has given more P's action at a 304 than Sinful the P. He was like the Chuck Woolery of the game, but not love connections. He was making game connections in the game, right? Again, I don't know anybody who has given more P's action at a 304 than Sinful the P. Like, nobody even comes close as far as who I know of, right? And if it's somebody that does come close, I'm not aware of who that is or, what their history is with it. But what I mean is, like, especially when he went to Canada, right? But even before he went to Canada, it'll be a situation, Sinful, he would get a lot of action, right? And any ladies that's watching right now and listening, y'all know what I'm talking about, right? But and any P's that can attest, to what I'm talking about. Y'all know that shit is real. But, a chick might be on Sinful's line. She might be trying to get to him, but, for one reason or another, it's just not going to work out, her getting to him. But before he let her go off and leave her to her own devices, he going to put her on the line with some pimping and make sure that she get to some pimping and that everything works out. He done gave me action at different 304s, and just about everybody that I know that he knew, and even P's that I didn't know, because we didn't know all the same P's. Sinful knew some P's that I didn't know and vice versa. But he was always giving somebody action at a 304, right? Made a lot of game connections between people, right? Was just always a gentleman about it. And that brings me to my first point about good P partners to campaign with. It's rare to find this, but the ideal P partner to campaign with is the one who is not tripping about a bitch at all. Never tripping about a bitch, in any kind of way. And a lot of cats, like I've said before, they real pimpish, they got, a lot of good characteristics about them. They real fly, charismatic, pop it, mouthpiece, all the shit, but when it come to, not tripping on a bitch, a lot of cats just don't have it. But that's what made Sinful and myself, ideal P partners to campaign with, because, there's nobody in existence that can tell you that Freeze ever tripped over a bitch ever. No female can tell you that. No guy can tell you that. Nobody who has ever existed that is familiar with me can tell you that Freeze ever tripped over a female ever. It's never gonna happen. It has never happened, never will happen, right? And a main part of the reason for that is because I understand my value. And because I understand my value so well, like, it's nothing, like, why would I trip over a female? Because she don't want to be with me, and that's what it be. You know, cats be tripping because a chick don't want to get him action, or, you know, a chick that they had already ready to blow and they can't handle her blowing, you know, for one reason or another, because, you know, a lot of times it be because of the intimacy. They don't want nobody else having a nookie. You dig? They don't want nobody else taking a bite of their cookie. You dig? But that's a big part of the reason. But then a lot of times too, she might have really been socking it to his pocket like a skyrocket. She might have really been tearing him off, and the thought of her leaving him and tearing another pimp off, you know, just boils his blood, make him sick to his stomach, right? So this is why a lot of cats be tripping over chicks. Some of the main reasons, right? But it's a whole bunch of reasons why cats be tripping over these bras. But, you know, Sinful is another one. Nobody on planet Earth could ever tell you that Sinful the P ever tripped over a female. Never. You know what I mean? And it goes hand in hand. You know, cats that usually give you action like, hey, P, you know what I mean? This broad, you know, she ain't working out with me, man, but I'm gonna line you up with her because, you know, y'all might be each other's flavor. You dig? So I'm gonna put y'all on the line with each other and see how it go, man, and hopefully, you know, marry pimp it to you, man. Hopefully everything work out for the both of y'all, right? You know, she a cool chick, and I know your pimping, so I figure who better to call than you. You dig? So I'm gonna line y'all up, man, and marry pimp it to you. You know, cats who have that about them, they usually don't. It's usually not the same person that's tripping over a broad, right? Usually. Sometimes it can be, but for the most part, and then on the same token, them cats that be tripping over a broad, them cats that can't accept the news, they can't accept that serving, you know, they not really the type that's gonna be like, yeah, P, you know, the broad just blew up on me, man, but she over there at the Sunrise Motel over there on Fig, man. You know, she in room, you know, 4. And, you know, all you got to do is go knock on the door, man, and tell her I sent you. You dig? She kind of, you know, upset with me right now. Obviously, that's because she blew. But, you know, I made sure she had some money on her. Matter of fact, she got like $1,200 on her, P. Go on over there and knock on her door, man. You know, because one thing about her, she not going to be by herself. She going to end up choosing somebody, and I'd rather see her choose you than anybody else around here, man. Yeah, so go on over there to her joint, man. Knock on her door, tell her Free sent you, man. And, you know, she ain't gonna be so apprehensive once she know that you came, you know, on the recommendation of some pimping, right? Cats who do that, they usually not tripping over a broad. And cats who's tripping over a broad, they usually not doing that, right? A lot of cats don't have that about them. But, you know, that's how I am, and that's how Sinful the P was, right? And he was much better at it than me, right? I do it, have done it, will do it, but, you know, Sinful, he just was a master at that. He always wanted to see pimping and 304ing together. He never wanted to see a 304, especially one who wanted some folks, you know, that he could do something about. He never wanted to see her without folks, and then some pimping, you know, he never wanted to see the pimping without, right? So he was always making them connections in the game between pimping and 304s, right? And again, nobody compares to him when it comes to that, right? So this is what make, you know, guys like us and different other ones, you know, ideal partners to campaign with. You know, whether you're going to the strip club or whether you on the Las Vegas Strip, you know, casino hopping, or whether you or not you on Collins Avenue in South Beach, or, Cahillo or Kalakaua and Waikiki, wherever you at, man, downtown Chicago, wherever you at, some cats, or you on the Blade, you might be on Figueroa, you might be on Bissonnette, Harry Hines, 27th Avenue in Phoenix, 27th Avenue in Miami, E14, Aurora, Colfax, you name it. Certain cats is just good P partners to have, right? And it's a trip. It's just unfortunate when you campaigning with somebody that is desperate, right? See, this is why it's always good to stay in the spirit of pimping, because the spirit of pimping and the spirit of desperation cannot operate in the same body at the same time. It's like darkness and light being on the same spot at the same time. It can't be daytime and nighttime at the same time. It's either daytime or nighttime. On that same token, the spirit of pimping and the spirit of desperation, they can't function in the same body at the same time. It's either you being desperate or you pimping, right? And a lot of cats allow that spirit of desperation to consume them to the point where they not even being pimpish no more, right? I remember a time I'm riding the Blade and I'm driving and I got my partner riding shotgun with me, right? We riding down the Blade, and before he can see it, I see her. It's a chick that I used to have, right? And come to find out, he had her before too, which was no surprise because a whole bunch of cats in the town didn't had this chick before. She didn't gave everybody a taste of her, supposed to be wannabe 304ing, right? So, like I said, I noticed her. And then when I noticed her, I pull into a driveway close to where she was walking, right? And I said, hey, what's going on? And she's on my side, right? She's on the driver's side. Of course, I pulled up on the driver's side so I could talk to her because I'm the one that recognized her, right? Now, when I say, hey, what's up? And she like, oh, hey, what's going on? She was like, happy to see me. We having a conversation. My partner, who's sitting shotgun, he looked and he like, oh, man, hey, bitch, what's going on? Man, I ain't seen you in a minute. What's happening? I know you remember me. Whoopty, whoopty, whoop. And just stepped all on the pimp's toes and, kind of like bullied me for her attention. And that's one thing about me. I'm not fighting nobody for no female's attention. Never. We never gonna fight over it. I'm gonna let you have it, right? Because obviously you want this chick a lot more than I do. I don't want her that bad to where we gonna fight for her attention and all that type of shit. I got way too much pimping. I'm too fly. I done did too much in life. I done came too far. I done sacrificed and struggled and endured so much shit to get to a point at this point in my life where I'm fighting for a chick's attention. I'm never gonna do that, right? So when he was like trying to wrestle me for her attention, I just let him have it. And then I pulled into the parking lot, and I got out the car and let her, it's my car, but I got out the car and let her get in the car and let them, handle whatever business they was going to handle, right? I just, step to the side and let Pimpin' do his thing, right? So, of course, needless to say, that was kind of, unpimpish on his part, but, I still maintain class. I still remained a gentleman throughout the entire encounter, right? And, in that case, a lot of cats, if I were to trip on him about that, a lot of cats will probably see me to be justified because he did step on my toes. And, he didn't even see the chick. It'd be different if he seen her and then afterwards I seen her and I'm like, oh, I used to have that chick too. If he would have seen her first, I wouldn't even said nothing, right? And I would have pulled up to where she was on his side of the car. And I wouldn't even said nothing. And if she would have seen and noticed me and said something to me, I'd have stayed in pocket. I'd have did like Sinful the P say, spoken the vernacular of silence, right? That's what I would have did. if the tables was turned and he would have seen her first, you know, or especially if he was driving. I never would have did no shit like that, right? But, you know, this is just a prime example of how everybody, you know, you can't campaign with everybody, you know, because a lot of cats you know, that's just one of the spirits that consume somebody to the point where they not even pimpish no more, right? So, again, you know, a lot of people will probably say that if I did trip on him, you know, I'd have been justified. But my thing is, I'm never going to trip on a chick, period. But even beyond that, like in her face, while she's right there, I'm never going to let a chick think that she's powerful enough to make me get into it with some pimping. Or make, you know, some pimping get into it. We tripping over her. And then to be all the way 100, that's another thing about it too. Like, she wasn't even like no hell of a, you know, she wasn't no hell of a 304 like that, you know, especially for him to be, you know, pushing me to the side for her attention and all that type of shit. She wasn't even worthy of all that, you know. That was embarrassing enough for me, even though I wasn't the one who was unpimpish in the situation. I was kind of embarrassed by the fact that he just thought so highly of her that he like pushed me to the side, like, hey bitch, what's going on? Remember me? Like, you know what I mean? I was embarrassed for the both of us, in the name of the pimping. You know, I was embarrassed, right? Because, you know, it's like making a mockery of the game to this broad, and she's not nearly, ain't no female big enough for that. But she ain't even, if it was a female big enough for that, she definitely ain't the one. You know what I mean? She's far from the one. You know, the one is way on the other side of the universe compared to her. You dig? So, yeah, man, it just was, you know, it just was unfortunate, man. But I'm giving y'all this example to show you how even when somebody else is unpimpish, you know, it's just best for yourself to remain classy and remain a gentleman despite whatever's going on through it all. You know, even if I'm in the right and they in the wrong or whatever the case is, I'm always going to remain a gentleman. I'm always going to conduct myself with class, right? Because I value my reputation. And I don't want it to ever be said by anybody. I don't even want anybody to mistake me for tripping on a broad. I don't even want it to halfway kind of look like I might have possibly been thinking about imagining tripping on a broad. Like, no, it's not even possible for Freeze to do that. Trip on a chick? Hell no. Never. Right? So, yeah, man, pimping, we just don't do that, man. That's just totally unpimpish. Right? And, you know, when P's do this, it ain't no love lost. You know, I understand that there's levels to this shit and there's degrees to this shit. And when I say levels and degrees, I don't mean as far as, you know, situation goes. I'm talking about levels and degrees of the pimping within, right? You know, everybody's level of pimping within ain't where mine is, and everybody's degree of pimping within isn't where my degree is, right? And I understand that. And, you know, a lot of it go back to the bottom line is just being a man, right? And a lot of people don't have a manhood in order, you know, the way some others of us do. And I understand that, right? I understand that, you know, my degree of manhood in comparison to others, you know, it's unfair for me to hold people to my standard. It's unfair to hold people to my regard, right? The only person I could really do that with was Sinful the P. You know, other people I just, you know, I can't, you know, I got love for them, and, you know, I'm a hold them down if they need me. You know, I'm never going to let a pimp starve or be in harm or go without. If I could do something about it, you know, a pimp going to be good with me. But as far as holding them to the standard of my manhood, I don't even do that because I'm going to disappoint myself every time. It's not even so much that they disappointing. You know, I'm disappointing myself for putting that type of faith in their manhood. You dig? That's a disappointment to me. So I'm never even going to trip, right? I just see myself a certain type of way, man, where, it's like I'm even to older cats, I'm kind of like an elder, right? So, I don't even trip. But, you know, the good side of campaigning, right? Like with Sinful the P, man, it was just really a treat to campaign with him, man, because the thing about Sinful and myself, a lot of times we gonna be getting our Jason Kidd, Magic Johnson on. We gonna be throwing assists more than we trying to get at somebody for ourselves in a lot of cases, right? Now, if we just got, blatantly obvious action at somebody, then of course, we gonna pursue it and shoot our shot. But man, like when Sinful and myself will be together, it would be a lot of, I see a chick over here and I'll start talking to her, like put them together, or vice versa. Sinful was like, again, he was a master at that. You know what I mean? I'll be right here and he'll see a chick. I might not see her, but she might be standing behind me and he'll, tell her to start talking to me, or, he'll say something about she and I, and then, it might be funny. She might laugh. A lot of times that's the best way to charm and disarm a chick is through humor, right? And anybody who knows Sinful, he was, a master at that with the humor, making somebody laugh. So, a lot of times we would bounce off each other like that, right? Or if other people are with us, we'll do the same thing for them, and what it all boils down to, this is one of the things that makes somebody the best P partner to campaign with possible, which is wanting to see your partner win, wanting to see your partner come up and have his way. A lot of cats ain't like that. It's unfortunate, but a lot of cats just don't have that about them. And, it all goes to, as many of you have heard, over the years, and I've talked about it, you probably haven't heard many other people talk about it, but the abundance mindset versus the scarcity mindset. A lot of cats in the game, unfortunately, have a scarcity mindset when it comes to these chicks. That's why they get to tripping over a broad. Like, if this broad leave, they ain't gonna never have a broad as good as her or better than her ever again, and that's that scarcity thinking, like it's not enough good, chicks out here for me to have. So, this one right here, I got to hold on to her for dear life. And man, if she ever leave me, I'm gonna go crazy. They don't say those words out of their mouth, but they behave those words with their actions. That's the sentiment of their behavior, right? They tripping because they can't see themselves without this chick, and they can't even possibly think of, they mind ain't even working in the type of way of, filling the shoes, somebody else picking up where this chick left off. They not even thinking like that, right? But when you have an abundance mindset, when you understand, again, your value as a man and as a pimp, and then you understand that there's too many women out here available. There's too many. There's no such thing as enough. You can never have enough 304s. You can never have action at enough 304s. Like, man, I got too much action going on. I can't handle it. Hell no. Ain't no such thing, man. It's way too many chicks out there that's willing to go get it, that's willing to be down with your pimping. It's way too many chicks out there that's willing to hand it over and surrender themselves and follow your instructions. It's way too many chicks out there that are going to do all of that and are drop dead gorgeous, beautiful. You know what I mean? Gold mines and great times. Hey, man, it's way too many of them in the world. Wherever you at, 9 times out of 10, you got access to the internet. So even if you in a place where it ain't really a lot going on outside, it's a lot going on the inside of this phone. You dig? So it's never a reason. And now more so than ever, even before social media was the way that it is, like it's never been a scarcity of women out there. Never. You dig, for a pimp. Hey, man, it's way too many of them out there. And then now that we got these devices, it's crazy that in 2025, cats is still tripping over a bitch. In 2025, you got access to millions of females on this thing, man, over multiple different platforms. You know, y'all could be in the chat right now, man. It might be a pimp in Utah, and he talking to a chick in Germany, you know, or Canada or something. You know what I mean? It might be a pimp in Colombia, and you know he talking to a chick in Norway or some shit. You know what I mean? Like, man, this shit right here make it where you should never trip over a female. Never, never. You know, like that is the most silly shit in the world, and it's the squarest shit in the world. Even a square shouldn't even be tripping over no female because of, you know, the way technology works in your favor. But, you know, especially the pimping. Like, what? You tripping over a broad? Like, you ready to fight? You know what I mean? Cats is still unaliving the pimping over a broad. Like, you're crazy. What's wrong with you? Get it together. You know what I mean? You ready to ruin your life, take the pimping's life over a chick that after the pimping is in the grave and you in the penitentiary, or it might go the other way around because the P don't stand for punk. So you might end up in the grave and pimping might end up in the penitentiary forever. And this broad, guess what she gonna be doing? She gonna go put another man's Johnson in her mouth. In no time. Your body ain't even gonna be cold in the grave, and she's gonna have another man's Johnson in her mouth. Or if you end up in a penitentiary, you know what I mean, you ain't even going to be housed good. You ain't even going to be settled in good. You ain't even going to be able to make it to store yet, and she going to have another man's Johnson in her mouth. You know what I mean? So there's never a reason, man. There's never a reason. And listen, man, I know how it is to like a female. I know how it is to love a female. You know what I mean? It's certain 304s that I love dearly, even though they might be paying another pimp. They might have retired and living the square life, you know, married with children, whatever, man. It's certain 304s that I love, right? But the way a pimp's love work, it's never the type of love where, you know, I just can't see her with nobody else. You know, see, this is how pimp love work, right? Pimp love works like this. You know, a chick been down with me for years, right? But, you know, all good things come to an end. And she might want to get out on my pimp, and she might want to blow, and I know it, right? Pimp love works like, you know, before I see you go make an irrational decision, make a foolish decision, I'm going to help you make a good decision by choosing some more of it, you know, and I'm going to line her up with the best pimp that I could think of, you know, and I'm going to call him. I'm going to tell him everything he need to know about her. You know, I'm going to tell her, you know, I'm going to give her, you know, his information, and they going to talk. I'm going to sit them down with each other, whatever. You know what I mean? That's how pimp love work. Bitch, I love you so much that I want to see you stay with some pimping, even if it ain't mine, because I want to see you happy. I want to see you prosperous in the game. I want to see you win. I want to see you shine. I want to see you be able to be a blessing, not just to yourself and to your folks, but to your family and whoever it is else that you love. You know, I want to see you make it count, right? I don't want to see you. I love you so much. I don't want to see you renegading. I love you so much. I don't want to see you doing a whole bunch of stupid ass shit, surrounding yourself with a bunch of other renegades, and y'all all doing stupid ass shit together. You know what I mean? Miserable, lonely, strung out, you know, drunks, you know, just, you know, failing in life, you know. And then especially, you know, once a pimp done had a chick for years, man, he done put a lot into her, man. If you done had a chick for years, you done invested a lot into her. You done put a whole lot of game into her. You done helped her get her credit right. You know what I mean? She might have some businesses or investments going on. If she leave you after building all of that, and if she don't go with some pimping, the chances of her ruining all of that and failing are extremely high. Extremely high. You know, just about everybody who I've seen that fit that description and they get out on the P, that's what ends up happening. You know what I mean? They end up ruining everything that they built with the pimping, right? So I love you so much that I want to see you get pimped on, even if it ain't by me. I'm gonna do my best to line you up with somebody, and I hope y'all have a happy, prosperous run together, right? That's that abundance mindset, right? And I'm not gonna worry about myself. I'm not gonna be without love. Shit, I'm a pimp. You know what I mean? I'm gonna go get, I'm gonna go knock something else, or maintain the ones that I got, or do whatever. But life goes on. I'm not gonna stop breathing and stop eating and stop sleeping because you done got out on me. And I can't stand the thought of you being intimate with another man, and I can't stand the thought of you paying the hell out of another man. Hell no, shit. Like I value my P in a way that, if a chick get out on me and she goes to you and she pay the hell out of you, I know that got a lot to do with how I pimped on her. The game and the guidance that I gave her throughout the time period that she was with me. That's how she was able to go to you and just hit the ground running and tear you off. Yeah, that made me proud of my pimping. You dig? So I would rather that again than, her go get with some dusty ass boyfriend that, don't understand her because she's a 304 and, she trying to go get into a square relationship with somebody who most likely is a trick. He reminds her of all the clients that she done broke on over all the years that she been in the game. You know what I mean? She laying down with somebody, being in a relationship, living with somebody, making breakfast and eating together and, doing laundry for a square, for a trick, for a client. He reminded her of so many regulars that she'd have had over the years, hell no, I love you so much that I'm going to do my best to help you do the Barry Sanders and curve that, do the swim move, do the Emmitt Smith on that, and get with some pimping, right? I remember, man, a partner of mine, I ain't gonna say his name, but he's currently incarcerated, man, and hopefully the mercies of God, abide on him, right? But this cat, man, and this is somebody, this is, it's a good and a disappointing thing, right? But this is a cat who I only know via phone and social media, right? Now, because we both been in the game for a long time, he a little older than me and been in the game longer than me, but we know a lot of the same people, right? He and I have just never been, in the same presence physically, right? We done chopped it up on the phone a lot and, through social media and all that, right? But I remember he called me one day and he was like, yeah, P, I'm calling you, man, because my bottom chick, man, who I've been having for 8 years, she done got out on me. And before she go choose the wrong individual or, do something stupid with herself, I really want to see you with her, man, because out of all the P's that I know, I like your style and I know you a good pimp and, I just want to see her with you before she go do some stupid shit with herself, right? So, man, we sat and chopped up on the phone for about a good hour. He was telling me all the good shit about her. You know what I mean? He spoke very highly of her, had a lot of love for her. It was clear to me that he still loved this chick, but, he wanted to see her go with some pimping. He didn't want to see her, go get with a sucker that's trying to act like some pimping or go get with a boyfriend who, again, like I said, is, remind her of one of the clients that she done had over the years that she done been in the game. That was like one of the most pimpish experiences that I've had. And, it was really on my part why it didn't happen because I didn't really put no effort into it like I probably should have. And she seemed like she would have been a cool chick. And she ended up going to choose with another partner of mine. And I think everything worked out. I think she ended up being over there for some time, if I'm not mistaken. But that was still to this day, man. It ain't too many experiences in the game that I've had like that. You know, where a pimp was just like so big in character. You know, such a gentleman, so man, just kept it so pimping. Like it ain't really too many experiences that I've had like that. You know, that he's the prime example of not tripping over a female. The prime, and this is somebody he didn't have for 8 years. You know, and he was on. You know, he had houses, property, cars, jewelry, all the shit. So I'm sure they built a lot of shit together over those 8 years, right? And, you know, one of those things I'm sure they built with each other, besides all the material shit, is love for each other. You don't spend time with somebody for 8 years and you don't love that individual. I don't give a damn what nobody say, right? You don't be in a relationship with somebody or, you know, have a 304 that you pimping on for 8 years and you don't love her. Like, that's crazy, right? So I'm sure they had love for each other. But that was just big of him to do, to call me and say, yeah, P, you know, my bottom, who I done had for 8 years, man, she getting out on me, man, and I want to see it. I want to see you with her, man. I feel like you could serve the most justice to her, given the situation, man. Like, that was big, right? A lot of cats ain't like that, man. A lot of cats be ready to, you know, a lot of cats be ready to crash out, man, in a situation like that. What? After 8 years, you gonna leave me? You gonna do this to me? Like Denzel on Training Day. You gonna do this to me? They tripping. They tripping about that chick, man. You know, most cats, they can't handle that. They can't stomach that, man. So yeah, again, shout out to P, man. Like I said, I don't want to say his name, but you know, he's currently incarcerated, and again, may the mercies of God abide upon him. And yeah, free that man. But let me hydrate my game. Listen, it's 236 of y'all. Come on, man. Y'all tripping, man. It's 235 of y'all now up in here, but only 133 of y'all done wiped your feet off at the door when you stepped into a pimp's domain. Come on, man. Do a pimp a favor. Wipe your feet off at the door when you step into a pimp's domain. Hit that like button. And shout out to my IG peoples in attendance as well. It don't really make a difference if I don't even think there's no like button to hit up in there on IG. I don't know. Yeah, most cats ready to crash out over that chick, man. Chi-Town Rick, as always, coming through with the $50 holla. RIP Sinful the P. Blessings to the game. Much love, Freeze. Chi-Town Rick, man, as always, I appreciate you, man. Good looking. Hi, ebooks, man. Where you been at, ebooks? I ain't seen you in a minute, man. Good looking with the $2 holla. RIP Lawrence Hammond, a.k.a. Payroll. Yeah, man, RIP to Payroll, man. We done lost a lot of good gentlemen in the game, man. Appreciate you. The Dapper, my partner, good looking with the $10 holla. One thing about campaigning with Freeze, man, he gonna toss the alley-oop for sure. I know from experience. Much love to you, loved one. And as always, and forever, long live Sinful the P, you dig? For sure, man. Yeah, Dapper, Dapper's another gentleman that's good to campaign with, man, because Dapper, he one of us, man. When I say he one of us, he one of us, you know what I mean? As the name implies, he's gonna be dapper. He gonna be fly from head to toe. He gonna put that shit on, you know what I mean? And he's gonna he's gonna conduct himself the way that he looks. You know how some people look like a gentleman, but then as soon as they open their mouth, you like, oh hell no, you know what I mean? Some people look fly, they put that shit on, but as soon as they open their mouth or you spend a few minutes around them, you know immediately like, oh hell no. Nah, Dapper ain't one of them, you know what I mean? Dapper, not only does he, appear to be a gentleman, but he conducts himself like a gentleman. And for sure, definitely never, ever tripping over a female. Never. You know what I mean? Definitely a good person to campaign with for sure. Good looking, man. Foreplay Freddie P. Good looking with the $2 holla. Respect to the ism on the road to 60K more subs. Yeah, man, we gonna do it, man. I got my foot on the gas right now. We gonna see how this shit go, man. We gonna see if we get to that Honda before let's see, man. Cause the way I'm feeling about it right now, type of energy I got on this YouTube shit right now, man, I'ma claim it, man. I think we gonna hit that 100K before my birthday. My birthday is at the end of October, man. I think we gonna touch that 100K before the end, you dig? Or by then. But we gonna see what it do. Magic Chris, good looking with the $2 holla. Brother Bill, as always, good looking with the $2 holla. Glory to God for this game. Long live Sinful the P. You spitting, P. Appreciate you, Bill. Pimp got to come through with this game, man. I can't leave y'all game deprived for too long, you dig? Ebooks, once again, good looking with the $5 holla. I ain't even gonna sing now. I got 5 on it because I can't hold a candle. I can't I can't hold a candle to bro, you know what I mean? I got 5 on it, so I ain't even gonna try, you know what I mean? But good looking Ebooks with the 5, man. Appreciate you. Wait, what did he say? Have you ever had a good P partner turn into a dirty Mac in the long run, trying to knock you behind your back? I'm pretty sure. Hold that thought. We gonna come back to that because I'm pretty sure for sure, yeah. Tyler Anderson, good looking with the $2 holla. Hit the like. Yes, indeed, man. As always, good looking, Tyler. Ebooks, once again, good looking with the $5 holla. Who is worse to campaign with, a junkie pimp or a green pimp that is running the campaign with rookie moves? Well, we're going to come back to that. We're going to get to your first question, Ebooks, or your last question before that one. Have you ever had a good P partner turn into a dirty Mac in the long run, trying to knock you behind your back? Yeah, I have dealt with that, and I ain't gonna lie, I kind of handled that in a not so pimpish fashion. You know what I mean? I got Pimp put his goon hand down, and Freeze turned into gangster mode, man, and start catching phase, man. Cause at that point, I felt like my beyond my pimping, my manhood was being disrespected, right? Because it's a different thing. Like, it's one thing when you cool with somebody, right? And that's somebody that you cool with, try to go behind your back and knock you for the broad or whatever, dirty Mac you. That's one thing. But when it's somebody that you done took care of, somebody that you done clothed, fed, housed, all of that shit, funded their campaign. When somebody like that tries to go behind your back and dirty mac you for somebody that's currently, messing with your pimping right now, that's just like that's a high level of disrespect. It's like, I ain't gonna lie, I lost my cool. I wasn't freezing that moment, you know what I mean? I was hot, you dig? So the me now, because I got a lot more game now, like I say all the time, game is the solution for everything. So I'm pretty sure that I could have applied some game that, would have been even more effective than, putting my hands on somebody. But, I lost my cool in that moment. But like I said, I'm a lot more seasoned and a lot wiser and a way more gamed up now. So the me now would definitely handle that much differently. But yeah, I have had that happen. I told a lot of y'all the story, but it was these two different individuals who I was looking out for that both at the same time was dirty macking me for different chicks that I had at the time. Like this one was over here dirty macking me for this chick that's messing with my pimping, while at the same time this one is over here dirty macking me for this other chick that's messing with my pimping. And they both knew we all knew each other, so they both knew what they was doing. It's like they got into a huddle and was like, okay, look, this is what we gonna do, right? We gonna knock Freeze off like this. You know what I mean? You gonna go. It's like they had to. you gonna run a slant, right? Then Pimp gonna pass you the dirty Mac pass, right? Then you over here, you gonna do a slant this way, and it's like that's how they was doing it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I definitely lost my cool in that moment, man. But like I said, to me now, I just know how to get my point across with game without, getting into it with the pimping. And you say, who's worse, to campaign with the junkie pimp or the green pimp making rookie moves? It all depends, man, because, just like I was talking about the other day when I was talking about people strung out on drugs, at the end of the day, they still somebody. They still, people. I don't look at them as, especially the pimping. I know some pimping who done got strung out on drugs real bad, man, and I still always got love for them because I remember, who they was before that, right? A lot of them, and even though they might go bad on that, I still remember that it's some pimping underneath all that, right? So it all depends, though. Like a lot of cats who get that monkey on their back, they get desperate and they do drastic shit that they wouldn't have did before they had the monkey on their back, right? So a green pimp, on the other hand, it all depends on if he really got some pimping with him, like if he really want to be the pimping as opposed, because a lot of cats when they first get into the game, man, they just looking at this shit like a hustle, like a way to come up. You know what I mean? To them, it's no different than selling dope or putting a ski mask on and hitting a lick, or scamming, or a lot of cats see the pimping as like a hustle, right? So I'm not campaigning with nobody like that, but a young green pimp that really got a hunger for the game, I'm a welcome him with open arms because I got a whole lot of game to give him, right? And I know don't nobody love a pimp like another pimp do, so I'm gonna show him love, right? And like I talked about before, I'm gonna show him different pimp experiences that'll give him an understanding of how to be an elite gentleman in the game, right? Because I know, like I said before, a lot of young cats, that's all they need. They just need them right kind of pimp experiences and pimp influences around them when they first get in the game. I'm grateful for the experiences and influences that I had when I first came into the game that helped me to be who I am in the game right now, right? I'm so grateful that, I wasn't misled early in the game by suckers and all that type of shit like a lot of cats do. You know what I mean? A lot of cats got spun early in the game and they still moving off of that false pretense. So I'm grateful that that wasn't me. So just like I was blessed in that way, I'm gonna do my best to bless a young green pimp coming up in the game the way I was. You dig? So yeah. eBooks once again, good looking with the $5 holler. What's your thoughts on the? I ain't even talking about that. eBooks, I know you probably been gone for a minute because I was gone for a minute, and now that I'm back, I see that you back. Welcome back. But yeah, me and you've been around for a long time, eBooks, so you know what kind of guy that I am, man. But I'm real, man, and I do. That's one thing about me, right? I know I could speak on that shit in a way that nobody else can, break shit down from a perspective like nobody else can, and go viral and get hundreds of thousands and probably millions of views and all that shit. But I have a certain type of integrity with me that won't allow me to just do shit for the sake of views and subscribers. And, I don't do that. Right. And my integrity won't allow me to speak on that. I haven't even mentioned none of those people's names, right? Because of how I get down. You know what I mean? Because I know what it's like to be in their shoes, not with the alphabet boys, but just, be sitting in a cell somewhere and you don't know what the outcome gonna be. And I know how that shit feel. And I wouldn't want a whole bunch of squares and lames and weirdos and suckers and, snitches and busters and all type of shit. I wouldn't want them on the internet eating off of me while I'm sitting in the cell. So on the same token, and then not just that, but like, I don't know none of them people personally, right? So I'm not going to sit up and try to talk like I do know them people personally and like I know the ins and outs and, accuse this person of this and accuse this person of that and say this person didn't do that. I'm not about to get into all of that. You know what I mean? Like I said, my integrity won't allow me to go there. So that's why I haven't spoken on that situation, and that's why I'm not going to speak on that situation, especially an open situation, a situation that's currently, developing and all that. Hell no, because people don't pay attention. Them people made a press conference and let it be known that they be watching the podcast that these people be going on, and a lot of the evidence that they have is from them podcasts, right? But yet and still, in spite of that, everybody get on the internet, speak about it some more, and try to stir more shit up, and I ain't with all that shit. I'm a real one for real though. A lot of people say they a real one, but I'm gonna display a real one. I'm gonna show everybody a real one. You dig? I'm not gonna just keep saying I'm a real one. I'm gonna show you I'm a real one. And that's one way that I'm gonna show you is by not talking on that shit. You dig? And I wish a lot of these gangbangers and super Crips and super Bloods and super Grooves and super essays and super Nortes and all this shit, I wish they was more like that. You know what I mean? But then again, I can't count it against them because a lot of people get wrapped up in this content world and lose themselves. A lot of people were nobodies before they started creating content. A lot of people were losers in life. A lot of people were lames. A lot of people wasn't getting no action with the ladies. A lot of people were bums, wasn't making no money, failures. What I mean? It's just, a lot of times when you like that and then you get wrapped up in this content world and you start having things that you never had before, like attention, admiration, money, and things of that nature, a lot of people lose themselves. They get lost in that and they become somebody totally different other than who they was, because a lot of times this shit ain't no different than being strung out on drugs, right? So just like you see somebody you might have knew them before they start, doing drugs, and then they got strung out and now they somebody totally different. This content shit do the same thing to a lot of people. They get strung out on the attention, they get strung out on the clout, and they lose themselves and they start being somebody totally different. But like I said, a lot of these so-called street people, man, I wish they would really show more of how you're supposed to conduct yourself when it comes to things like that. But 6'6" my brother, what's up, bro? Appreciate you with the $10 holla. Shout out to my bro. I want to see you hit that 100K. Keep mashing. Yeah, bro, I got my foot on the gas, man. Yeah, appreciate you, bro. Love you, man. They see me trolling. Good looking with the $2 holla. Talk about campaigning in the clubs with another P. Yeah, man, that's a good one. They see me trolling. We gonna touch on that for sure. That's a good one. Let me hydrate my game one more time. When I get to running my mouth, man, I get a little parched sometimes. Right. Okay, on Instagram, Young K500 says, self-admitted by the defendants. The defendants ain't real ones. They told on themselves, OG. Okay, but still, though, like you saying they not real ones. I doubt that you know any of them. I doubt that you've read any documents this official, that you went and got some official documents yourself. I highly doubt that, right? And I doubt that you personally know anybody in that case. But whether you do or not, the bottom line is you not in them cells with them people, and you don't know what's going on. You only know the same thing everybody else know, which is what they see on the internet, right? And beyond that, even if they not real ones, that don't give me a license to be a fake one. And I don't want a license to be a fake one. So I'm going to keep it 100 with myself. I ain't doing it just for them. I'm 100 for myself, because I give a damn about, who I got to sleep with at night, which is myself, and how I feel about it. And, it's like, just doing some unmanly shit and you got to live with it. You know what I mean? Like I can't do that. You know what I mean? So it's bigger than just them and a respect to them, because I do purposely not speak on it out of respect for them, because like I said, I don't know none of them personally, and I don't have no discovery on them, and I don't want no discovery on them. I don't want to read their paperwork. I'm not, because see, this is, we kind of going off topic a little bit, but I got to say this shit, right? This a problem with the culture nowadays. Everybody want to read paperwork on people that they ain't gonna never meet, ain't gonna never do business with, ain't gonna never be friends with, never gonna kick it with. Why do you want to see their paperwork or know about their case? Why are you so interested? Why are you so invested with some people you don't know? You know what I mean? A lot of y'all is the nosy neighbor peeking through the blinds with the robe on and the rollers in her hair. That's who a lot of y'all done turned into. You know what I mean? And in the words of DMX, man, hey, mind your business, lady. You know what I mean? Whole bunch of y'all, you need to mind your business, lady. You know what I mean? For real though. But yeah, man, I'm I just ain't into that. But like I said, I do it more so for myself than a respect to others. My respect to others has a lot to do with it, but my dignity has even more to do with it. You know, my respect for myself. You dig? So, yeah. But yeah, a whole bunch of people need to mind their business, man. And that's what I'm doing. Low Joe, good looking with the $2 holla. Were you in Hawaii with one of the Dirty Mac with one of the Dirty Macs? It was a couple of Dirty Macs I was in Hawaii with. Yeah, but that's what you just heard me speaking on, Lojo, when I was being Dirty Mac'd on by the two different cats at the same time. Yeah, that was in Hawaii. So yeah. Marvelous, good looking with the $5 holla. Freeze, I'm new to doing this. I had a worker quote me for $500. I said I don't have it, and she said find somebody else. Is that how that go? You know, everybody is different, so there's no cookie cutter way that it goes with everybody. You know, everybody is different, and you know what I would advise you to do, in the words of Sinful the P, observe and stay preserved until you see who deserves your time, and in your case, your dime and your time, right? You know, it's unfortunate, but the truth is a lot of ladies are not professionals. You know, they may look good, but they're not professionals about what they're doing. So you're going to get a lot of unprofessional experiences if you don't, again, observe and stay preserved until you see who deserves your time and your dime. You know, if you don't do that, you're going to encounter a whole lot of unprofessionalism. So, you know, just take your time to take inventory on who you dealing with. You know, that's the beautiful thing about you know, the world that we live in nowadays. You know, there's so many ways to take inventory on who you might be interested in. And, you know, it's crazy. You know, on one hand, I like the fact that she asked you for 500, but on the other hand, I'm willing to bet that her professionalism doesn't, you know, command 500, you know. But I like the fact that she stood on it too. I like the fact that she didn't compromise herself and, you know, break it down, you know. But that's interesting though. But good stuff. E-books, good looking again with the $5 holla. Sin once told a story about a stripper with stripper with funky breath and how he sent her to you. Have you ever done similar and passed a defective 304 to the homies? I'm trying to think of who you talking about. He said he he had a stripper with bad breath and he passed her to me. I'm trying to think of who that is. A stripper with bad breath. Damn. I can't even remember. You know, I would probably need more context to the story to jog my memory, but I can't even remember. But I ain't surprised though. Oh man. But speaking of strippers and being in the club, right? You know, campaigning in the club is tricky, man. And to be honest with you, I don't really like campaigning in the club in general, period. But then also I don't like campaigning in the club with certain individuals, right? Because you never know if, you know, it could be somebody that you've been knowing for years, man. And you never know what they gonna do in the club. Certain people. If you don't, you know, if they like, you know, volatile individuals, man, spontaneous and things like that, you never know what somebody is gonna do, right? Like, for instance, I remember one time my partner and I, we go to the strip club, and strip club super popping. It's super live in there. It's a whole bunch of patrons in there, and it's a whole bunch of girls in there working. It's a big strip club. It's popping, you know. So my partner, who I've been knowing for a long time, we in there, and he had ordered some singles, like a stack of ones, and I didn't really pay it any mind when he did it. I wasn't really, it didn't really catch my attention like that. But he, ordered a stack of ones. So then, while we sitting there at the table, he gets up and walks to the stage, and he started making it rain on the stage. And I'm like, oh, hell nah. You know what I mean? That shit wasn't cool, man. So, like, I went to the car after that. I couldn't even stay in there with him. I couldn't, associate myself with that. Even though it wasn't me doing it, I didn't want to be guilty by association in any kind of way. And I didn't want it to appear like I was condoning that or encouraging that in any kind of way. So I went and sat in the car for the rest of the time that we was there, man, because that shit wasn't cool. And then when he finally, came out to the car, he's like, man, what's up, P, man? Why you just sitting in the car? I'm like, P, man, like, you in there throwing money on the stage and shit. I'm like, man, I can't be a part of that. Like, hell no. You know what I mean? Oh, man, so this is what I mean. This is what I mean by, everybody ain't cool to campaign with. And then certain people are cool to campaign with in certain situations, but not other situations, right? Like the individual who I'm talking about, he's cool to campaign with, like, in a carpet type situation, like if it's casinos or something, or South Beach or something like that, bars or whatever, he's cool to campaign with in those settings. But obviously in the strip club, never again. He and I will never campaign together in the strip club again. That's never happening. You got one chance to ruin it like that with me, and it's over with after that. Still got love for you. You know what I mean? We still cool, but nah. We can't campaign in the club. And see, like the video that I put out a few days ago about trust, right? And I broke down the 3 things that make somebody trustworthy and the 3 things that Sinful and myself had in common that distinguished us from everybody else, which is self-esteem, self-discipline, and ability to withstand pressure, right? Everybody don't have that. And those are good, things to gauge whether or not somebody's a good person to campaign with, right? Like, because to me, right, that's why tricks trick, because they don't want to do a lot of talking with their mouth to have their way with the woman. So they would rather talk with their money to have their way with the woman. And that's understandable, and that's cool, right? That's what tricks do. Tricks let their money talk to have their way with a woman. The pimping, we gonna let our game talk. We gonna let the pimping talk, right? And, a pimp is not going to talk with his money in order to get a woman's attention. That's not what pimping do. We don't do that. So, to be with your pimp partner and he in the club talking with his money, hell nah, man. You blurring the lines, man. You got people thinking we in here doing some tricking or something, like we clients. And I can't be mistaken for no client. That ain't never gonna happen. So I'm gonna let you do that by yourself, and I'm gonna separate myself. I'm gonna go sit in the car, wait till you're done, then we can slide off. You know what I mean? It's all good. But yeah, you got a lot of cats that call themselves the pimping, but will try to talk with their money. And when you as far as like somebody that's supposed to be some pimping that's talking with their money, what that tells me is that your self-esteem is inadequate. Your self-esteem is low. Your self-esteem is on life support, because if your self-esteem is intact, then you're going to understand your value, the value of your words, and you're going to have the confidence to get a chick's attention with your words and your presence. You know what I mean? The way you put yourself together, your presentation, your aesthetic, and what's coming out your mouth. You're going to get a chick's attention based on that, right? You're going to let those things speak for you and not some money, right? But, yeah, so when I see somebody in the club trying to talk with their money and they supposed to be some pimping, like, again, what that tells me is that you feel inadequate. Your conversation is not good enough. Your presentation is not good enough, but your money is good enough, right? But see, when you come through the door like a trick and then you get treated like a trick, you can't be mad. Like Dre say, you can't cry then. You know what I mean? If you come through the door like a trick and then you get treated like a trick, you can't cry then. You know what I mean? Like, you can't cry then, man. You know what I mean? You can't be mad at the chick for treating you like a trick if you come through the door like a trick. And I'm never going to prompt anyone to treat me like a trick. Never. Can't do it. Right? So you just got to be careful when you campaigning in the club with certain individuals, man, because like 50 say, I let my watch talk for me, my my ones talk for me, my stack talk for me. Bow, what's up, homie? He hit the bitch in the face with the bankroll like, bow, what's up, homie? Oh, man. My whip saying, bitch, get in. Oh, man. But yeah, man, again, like I said, I can't do it. Lojo, once again, good looking with the $5 holla. How do you deal with guys who are shy with women? Like, she's trying to talk to him and he's looking away or scared to speak. You know what's crazy, Lojo? It's sad that, we even have these kinds of thoughts when it comes to the pimping, because you would think that the pimping is just like confident when it comes to talking to women and dealing with women. But I have been campaigning with certain cats and, they clam up like what you describing, right? We're going to get into it. Hold on. You got all different kinds of P's in the game, right? And, one type of P that I've known quite a few of in the game is the type that say, they only like black 304s. They don't like white 304s. They don't like other ethnicities. They only want black 304s, right? You got quite a few cats in the game who are like that, contrary to popular belief. Everybody think that a lot of P's prefer white girls over other ethnicities, and you have a lot of guys like that in the game too. You got a lot of cats that prefer white girls over everything else, and you have a lot of cats that prefer black girls over everything else, right? But I have to be 100, and I must say that some of them dudes that scream, black 304's boss, white 304's loss, or black 304's king, white 304's dream, all that type of nonsense they be woofing. A lot of cats just be selling woof tickets. They don't really believe that, right? This what it is with some of them cats. Some of them cats, they really mean it. But a lot of the cats What it is the reason why they don't want white women is because they're intimidated by white women. Gotta call a spade a spade. It sounds crazy, but it's the damn truth. I've seen it with my own eyes. You got certain cats that scream, black hoes king, white hoes dream, but really the white hoe is your nightmare. You ain't the white hoe's dream, man. She's your nightmare. You know what I mean? You scared of that bitch. And I don't know why, but it's a lot of cats like that, man, because it's just certain ones who come to mind that, we'll be out campaigning and, they might get action from some white girls, but they demeanor is just like that bold, confident, super pimpish. It's like they get timid. They shrink and they get small and timid and shy and like they don't want to talk, and especially like, and see this is another thing about campaigning, right? And I've mentioned this before, but you know how on Jersey Shore they used to use the terminology handling a grenade? They used to say that a lot on Jersey Shore, for those of y'all that used to watch Jersey Shore back in the day. And I ain't even watched that show a whole lot, but I do remember them saying that, often. Like, oh man, you got to hold the grenade or you got to carry the grenade. Basically what carrying a grenade is if you out with your partners and, one of your friends, like say it's you and your partner, and he got action at a chick and she got a friend, right? The friend is the grenade, meaning she gonna blow the situation up. So in order for the situation to not blow up, you have to handle the grenade, meaning you got to get the friend and pull the friend away, so that she don't compromise the action that your partner got, right? That's what handling a grenade is, right? And a lot of P's are terrible. They gonna fumble the grenade or they gonna run from the grenade. You know what I mean? A lot of P's ain't gonna be like, okay, my partner, he getting action with her, she got a grenade with her, let me take the grenade and handle the grenade with care until he accomplished the mission. Nah, a lot of P's is terrible at holding grenades, man. And you would think the pimping is just the best at that, man, but no, a lot of cats is terrible at holding grenades, man, for real, because it's terrible, man. Like, you got a lot of cats that you'll be out with them and they wasn't even thinking about this chick. They seen this chick already, but they wasn't going to say nothing to this chick. They wasn't going to holler at this chick, right? And they see her with her friend and he with his partner. But as soon as his partner say something to the chick, now he want to have the chick. Now he want to fight his partner for her attention. He ain't even thinking about the grenade. He don't even see the grenade no more. He just see that his partner is hollering at this chick that at first he wasn't even, he might have been too scared to say something to her. He might have been too shy to say something to her. But now that his partner done broke the ice with her, he sees that as his, his doorway into her attention. And that's the lamest shit in the world. And it's a lot of cats in the game who do that too. You know what I mean? That's one of the most sucker ass ways to step on your partner's toes. But a lot of cats will do that. You know what I mean? Either they'll, try to barge in the middle of their conversation and try to, wrestle for her attention like that. Or, they'll wait until their partner is done and, he might go to the restroom or something. And then he come behind his back and try to holler at the same chick that he was just hollering at. You know what I mean? That shit lame as hell. But you got a lot of cats who do that. But back to the P's who claim to only want black girls, but they really be intimidated by white girls. This is what lets you know that they're intimidated because I'm excellent at holding grenades, right? I love holding a grenade if I see that my partner got action and she with a grenade, I'm going to take the grenade and keep her over here and, occupy her time. I might not be interested in her at all, but I'm going to make her laugh. I'm gonna ask her questions that I ain't even really interested in. You know what I mean? You know, I ain't really trying to have this chick, but you know, I'm gonna keep the conversation going as long as I need to, so that my partner could keep his action right. Even if we got to go to dinner, or you know, we might go to a bar, have drinks. The whole time, I'm gonna keep her occupied. I'm gonna keep her laughing. You know what I mean? We gonna be having a good time, and for the sake of my and I don't even want this chick. I'm not trying to have her, but I'm gonna make sure that she's preoccupied to the point where she ain't even thinking about what they got going on, right? So, but cats who be intimidated by white girls, they can't do that. And this is what lets you know that it's intimidation. Because if you really just don't like white girls, but you see your partner getting action at a chick and she got a white girlfriend with her, you know what I mean? Even if you're not interested in her, you, as some pimping, you should at least be able to keep her preoccupied again. Put her at ease, charm and disarm her, make her laugh, you know what I mean? Have a good conversation with her, all the shit. But a lot of cats can't do that. They so intimidated by white girls. They so scared of white girls. They look at white girls like the big bad wolf. You know what I mean? They look at white girls like Apocalypse on X-Men, like Magneto, you know what I mean? Like, you know, this invincible white girl is here and, you know, I'm in fear for my life. They just look at them like that for some reason, man, and I don't get it. You know, you're supposed to be some pimping. Now, don't get it twisted. I know some cats like that too, right? And that's why I'm saying this. So I know some cats who fit this description, right? Where they genuinely do only want black women. They don't want white 304s. But if they out campaigning with their partner and it's him and his partner and it's these two white girls and his partner getting action at the one, you know, he know how to take the other white girl and keep her preoccupied. Again, like I said, make her laugh, have good conversation, have a good time. He know how to do that with the other white girl, even though he's not interested in her because he only really want a black 304, right? You have P's like that, right? But you have other ones who say that they only want a black 304, and really, if they wasn't so scared of white girls, they'll take a white girl. You know what I mean? They might like a white girl, but they scared of them. They intimidated by them to the point where they can't even hold a white grenade. You know what I mean? Like if the grenade is white, they scared. You dig? You know, the grenade still got the pin locked in and all that. You know what I mean? The grenade ain't finna blow up as long as you hold on to it. You know what I mean? If the grenade is white, they scared. They intimidated, you know what I mean? They can't, again, like I said, have a good conversation, make her laugh, keep everything cool. They can't do it, right? So needless to say, that's not really the best partner to campaign with either. You know, a cat that you know is intimidated by certain types of chicks because, you know, if you the type that's the total opposite and you're not intimidated by anybody or anything, and you know, you gonna holler at the baddest ones, the ones that everybody's scared to talk to, that's who you talking to. If you're like that and you got a partner with you that talk all this shit, but when it come down to it, he intimidated by certain females, man, like it just ain't cool. Because you could be hollering at a badass chick and again, she might have a friend that's a grenade with her. And you looking at your partner like, okay, I know my partner, he gonna handle the grenade, everything cool. But he intimidated by the grenade. And he won't even, you know, he being socially awkward. Imagine that, some pimping being socially awkward. But man, some of them telling you, he being socially awkward and, you know, she like, and then what make it even worse is like if she's the driver, you know what I mean? If her friend that his partner is having action with rode in the car with her, you know, she the driver, so that make it even worse. And then, you know, he being socially awkward, he won't even talk to her. He can't even strike up a conversation with her. And she like, I'm ready to go. Girl, get his number or something. You know what I mean? Let's go. It's time to go. I'm leaving right now. You know what I mean? Let's go. Then she come intervene like, excuse me, sir, let me see your phone. This her number right here. Okay. Come on, girl. Let's go. She grabbing her by the hand. Come on, let's go. You know what I mean? Like, not cool, man. You know, so you have guys like that, like I said, they claim to only want black women, but they intimidated by white girls. It's not so much that they don't want white girls, they just intimidated by them. Then you have these kind too, right? This is a real trip. You have the kind that say they want white girls, you know, and they don't really like black girls, but then they be having black girls and they always blowing them. They always getting into it with them. You know what I mean? But they claim like, you know, they really want white girls. But then when you go out and campaign with them and you get in action with the white girls and they get in action with the white girls too, but they scared of them. They won't talk to them. I done had people, man, I done campaigned with certain cats, man, and the white girls be digging them, but they be scared. They be socially awkward. They don't know how to talk to them. You know, white girl, beautiful, you know, pleasant, you know, welcoming and trying to have a conversation with this man, and he just like giving her short answers and all this shit because he's scared of her. Like, it's crazy. You know what I mean? That's why, again, like I said, it's good to campaign with somebody who has a high self-esteem, high self-discipline, and ability to withstand pressure. You know what I mean? But especially that high self-esteem. It's good to campaign with somebody that got high self-esteem, man, because a lot of these dudes, man, you know, they make it look good and sound good on the gram, but, you know, they really be scared of certain individuals. And then you have the opposite too. I can't leave that out. You have the type of guys who say they only want white girls. They don't want black girls, right? And, you know, it's not so much that they don't want black girls. They don't know how to talk to black girls. They don't know how to deal with black girls. They scared of black girls. They might be attracted to black girls, you know what I mean? But they just don't know how to deal with them. They don't know how to talk to them. They socially awkward when it comes to being with black girls. Again, I've been with certain cats who claim, you know, they want a white girl, they don't want a black girl, and then we'll go somewhere and, you know, it might be two black women and, you know, me and my partner, and we get in action with these two black girls, you know, same thing, beautiful, you know, and her partner trying to talk to him, and she's, you know, beautiful black woman, and she pleasant and cool personality and all the shit, and he just don't know how to talk to her. He being short again with the answers, and, you know, she kind of like carrying the conversation, and she asking all the questions. He ain't asking her no questions. And it's like, you know, again, like I said, if you're the type who really does only want white girls and you don't want black girls, you still should be able to, if she's a potential grenade, hold this grenade, you know, make her laugh, you know, keep a cool conversation with her, you know, charm and disarm her, keep her mind off of, you know, her partner and your partner, right? You should be able to do that, you know, if you don't have a problem with black girls and you're not scared of black girls and you're not intimidated by black girls. But you have those types of guys too. You know, it's not so much that you just like, you know, white 304's king, black 304's dream and all that old type. It ain't so much that. No, you're scared. You know, the black woman is your nightmare. You know what I mean? You scared of the black woman. That's what it is. You know what I mean? It's not that you the black woman's dream. No, the black woman is your nightmare. You know what I mean? She the big bad wolf to you. You know, you scared of her. You know what I mean? You know? You think the black girl gonna hurt you or something like that. So you scared of her, man. You know? But shout out to the pimps that's not scared of nobody. You know what I mean? Shout out to the pimps that's not scared of no type of woman, not intimidated by no type of woman, black, white, candy stripe, you know, and then, you know, if it's a type of chick that they not interested in, they still know how to keep everything cool for the sake of their partner maintaining the action. You dig? Shout out to them, man. Cats that really know how to campaign with another pimp, you know, because a lot of cats don't know how to do it, man. You know, and for the young cats this in attendance, man, even if you a square, you know, and you and your partner going out, you know, and y'all each other's wing, man. You know, a lot of this game can apply to you too, man. But yeah. Shout out to the pimping though. You dig? Hydrate my game one more time. I'm reading these supers. I'm trying to catch up because y'all been coming through with the contributions, man. Appreciate y'all. Okay. Mr. Act Now 773. Good looking with the $5 holla. Peace and blessings, P. What was your rhythm like when you was holeless and doleless but still campaigning? We gonna get to that. I could tell you that. Glad you asked that question, man, because that's we gonna get into that. E-books, good looking again with the $5 holla. Low key with your boy Trump in office. My days of easy tricking with migrants are over. It's scarce here. Nah, hey, I just seen something on the news, or I seen a news article pop up, I think just yesterday. They said a Supreme Court judge blocked the deportation of migrants from Venezuela. Like Trump was using some, I guess it's called wartime laws that he was trying to, you know, use to deport people. But I just seen something, you know, so basically it's a pause right now on the deportation. If I'm not mistaken, if I read the article right, I just read the headline. I didn't read the whole article. Or I read part of the article. I didn't read the whole thing. But to my understanding, and somebody could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they put a pause on the deportations right now. But ebooks, man, I've been telling you ebooks, man, for a long time now, man. You need to stop being cheap with your tricking, man. You know, you get what you pay for, man. Ain't nothing wrong with paying for some quality ebooks. And you a veteran at this point, man. You know, ain't no problem with stepping your tricking up, man. It's cool. Ebooks, once again, good looking with the $5 holla. Is it smart to campaign with gangsters and D-boys? Is the campaign more effective with legit full-time pimps than gangsters and Macs? You know, you got some, like me, I'm campaigning with the pimping. You know, but you got some gangsters and D-boys that are cool. Especially I you know, it might sound biased or whatever the case may be, but California, you know, where I come from, man, the state of California, we just, you know, even the square men from the West Coast, especially California, you know, they not really tripping over a female like that. Now, of course, you got your, you know, exceptions. You got your few that's, you know, just like that. But for the most part, most cats from California is not tripping over a female, right? So with that being the case, you know, they cool campaign partners. They can be. But again, you know, me, I'm going to stick with the pimping. And, you know, gangsters and D-boys, you know, I just don't be hanging out with gangsters and D-boys. You know, I got some that I'm cool with, that I got love for, but, you know, we ain't going out on the town and all that type of stuff usually, so. But shout out to the gangsters and the D-boys and the Max. You dig? Oh, my bad. I read that one already. But to get back to Mr. Act Now 773's question, what was your rhythm like when you was holeless and doleless but still campaigning? Hey, man, as I've said before and I'll say it again, I think a lot of times I do my best work under pressure, man. You know, I done did a lot of my best work, you know, leaking for real. Holeless and doleless, don't know where I'm gonna lay my head, don't know how I'm gonna eat, don't know how I'm gonna, just don't know what my future holds. You dig? But them situations don't last long, for one. They never have with me lasted long. But beyond that, it's just a certain type of fire that you gotta, keep lit within yourself. You know, you gotta be hungry, because a lot of cats get into them situations and they fall into a depression, right? Like we done talked about before. But you can't allow yourself to be depressed, man, because it's a temporary situation. You know, shit happens to the best of them. You got millionaires that go broke, and, all different types of people that fall on hard times. And the pimping is not exempt from that, right? So especially when you standing on your pimping, sometimes it happens. But, me, in them moments where I might be holeless and doleless, man, I'm turning on the sugar free. I'm in the bathroom shaving, cutting my hair because I cut my own hair. You know what I mean? I'm getting myself together. I'm ironing my clothes. I'm putting my cologne on, getting groomed up. Even if I might not have much, I'm gonna look like I got everything, and I'm gonna act like I got everything. I'm not gonna lie and front like I got everything, but I'm gonna have the energy like I got everything, because in my mind, I got everything that I need. And again, see, when you holeless and doleless, it's imperative to keep in mind that you have to stay moving from the inside out, right? The inside is constant. The inside is consistent. The inside of who you are is going to remain the same. It's going to grow and evolve, but the nature of who you are is pretty much going to be the same. So if you understand who you are, you're the same person that was deep in checking it that you might be right now that you leaking. You're the same person. The situation is just different, but you're the same person, right? If, 5 304s with bankrolls was to just fall in your lap, you know what to do, right? A lot of people wouldn't know what to do with that, but because you done pimped before, you know what to do. So, yeah, man, me, I just, like I said, and a lot of times I do my best work under pressure. I done knocked some of my best 304s when I was leaking, right? And see that the reason why is because, in them type of situations, if you leaking and you knock a cool 304, she really messing with you and not just your situation, right? She sees the value in you, which means, she sees something that she can, somebody that she can build with, right? But a lot of these chicks, when you own, if you don't have any discernment and you don't know what to look for in a chick, you might think that she's choosing you, but she's really choosing your situation, right? She see that you own. She see that you having it your way, she might be choosing your situation. But when you leaking, you might not have a car. You might be motel living, whatever your situation is. When you holeless and doleless, that chick chose you for your game, right? Or she might know your reputation. She might know what you're capable of, and she might see this as a beautiful thing. Like, damn, okay, I get to build with somebody who know what they doing, right? He probably just needed some good 304s. And it's good that the bad ones done left, and he done cleared house. Now we could start fresh. We got a clean slate, me and him, brand new. Hell yeah, I'm finna choose him. It might be that kind of thing, right? Because again, a real 304, she gonna recognize the value in the man, and the she's not gonna get caught up in the situation that the man is in. She's more focused on the man and the situation, and she know that the man got the power to change the situation, right? So yeah, man, sometimes you might knock your best ones when you holus and dolus. You dig? For real, for real. Reading these comments on Instagram and YouTube, you dig? Game wise, DJ say if your game code like that, she won't get to access certain situations or lifestyles that come with your life until she do A, B, and C. That's then past the timeline of 1, 2, and 1,000. Yep, she's gonna have to earn it, that's for sure. She's going to have to earn it. It ain't easy access and it ain't free access. You dig? Lojo, good looking with the $2 holla once again. Why are guys intimidated by a successful chick? Because again, a lot of cats don't understand their value, and a lot of cats don't be having their man shit in order. They don't be intact with who they are as a man, right? So that's probably why a lot of cats be intimidated by successful chicks. They can't think of any way that they can be valuable to her besides money. That's why, and no disrespect to any of these quote unquote dating coaches, but I like how Kevin Samuels broke down what he considered to be a high value man, right? He has certain criteria, but then he also said at the end of the breakdown that, there's other things that factor into high value men, and you can add to it or take from it how you want. But then you have a lot of guys who in their conversation, when they speak of a high value man, they mostly talking about money, right? 6-figure income and all this type of shit. But there's other things that make a man valuable than just his money, because I'm not no trick. You know what I mean? So a woman ain't getting with me just for the money. Like it ain't happening, right? But that's what it is. A lot of cats, like how you said successful, right? A lot of cats be intimidated by a chick that make more money than them. Or you have some cats who are intimidated by chicks who don't necessarily make more money than them, but they make a lot of money. You got cats intimidated by chicks like that too, right? Like he might make a lot of money, and even though she doesn't make as much money as him, she makes a lot of money too, and she got her shit together and she got it going on. A lot of cats be intimidated by that because, they can't picture a woman like that surrendering themselves to them. And they don't really have what it takes to get a woman like that to surrender themselves to them, right? you know, because in that case, even though you make more money than her, she makes a lot of money too, so she don't need you for your money, right? And a lot of square men only feel useful to a woman when, she needs them for their money. But if she don't need you for your money, you intimidated by her because you can't think of any other way that you can be valuable to her. You can't think of anything better to bring to the table than your money, right? But any real man who got his man shit in order knows that it's a whole lot more as a man that you bring it to the table than just your money, right? If you just consumed by the spirit of tricking and the only valuable thing you could bring to a woman is your money, then, it's cool. But, any real man knows better than that. So, guys like that, and it's funny because, and bless his heart, Kevin Samuels, right? He would talk to a lot of these chicks and, I paid attention to a lot of these chicks. They wouldn't have nuts. A lot of them wouldn't have nothing going on. They want a 6-figure man. See, pay attention to this shit, right? They want a 6-figure man. They themselves don't make 6 figures. They in the low 5 figures. But they might have multiple children by multiple different guys who ain't in the picture, all the shit, right? And, they want a 6-figure man. Why do you think that is? And Kev, bless his heart, that was just his thing. He would let different ones know where they didn't qualify for a high value man, so on and so forth, man. But the truth of the matter is a lot of them so-called quote unquote high value guys, and I'm not saying this applies to Kevin. I'm not saying Kevin was this type of dude, but a lot of guys who consider themselves high value men, they want a chick who don't have shit going on. They want a bum, chick that, ain't really got it like that, irresponsible, can't maintain a job, unstable. They want a chick like that because they know the money is going to give them the leverage in the situation, right? And they kind of can get a chick to surrender to the money, not necessarily their manhood, right? So that's why a lot of dudes be intimidated by a quote unquote successful chick too. A chick that got her own money and shit like that. Ideally, a square man, he should want somebody that got something to lose like he got something to lose, right? Theoretically, it sounds good, but in actuality, a lot of them dudes, they scared of a chick like that because they maybe subconsciously they think that the chick is going to control them, or that it's going to have to be a thing where she's controlling them and she's wearing the pants in the situation. I don't know. I'm not no square. I'm not no quote unquote high value man. I'm just a lowly pimp. You dig? But, that's what it appears to be on the outside looking in. And then again, like I said, you have a lot of guys that they just like their money to talk for them. And this is why 304s is steadily breaking on high value men. This is why 304s is steadily getting bankrolls from high value men, because these are the type of guys that talk with their money, right? They might not have the best personality. They might not have the best conversation, but they got the best money though. And that's okay. It's just that, a lot of them make the mistake of, wifing up somebody that they talk with their, they talk with their money to some of the wrong individuals sometimes. Right. But, me, I would think that, a high value man that understands his value, like it's not just his money that makes him high value, his character, his principles, his values, that's what makes him a high value man, the type of actual man that he is, I would think that somebody like that would, would make it, a challenge for a woman to get in good with him, right? Not only are you going to have your shit together financially, but you're going to have your woman shit in order too. You would think that, but man, a lot of them high value dudes, man, they got a scallywag at home that ain't doing shit. Or they lonely, they by themselves, you know what I mean? Because the type of chicks that they supposed to be messing with, like Lojo said, they scared of, they intimidated. E-books, good looking with the $5 holla. How did Bishop manage to pimp in Chicago with all the gods and vice lords? Them dudes go crazy when they lose merchandise. I don't know. I wasn't around in his era, so I can't sit here and try to speak from his perspective, but I've heard stories that, he was just a well-respected individual. So I would imagine that definitely had a lot to do with it. Julius Mack, good looking with the $5 holla. What do you think of disrespect from a 304 while campaigning? What's a P's best course of action if she called you a B in today's age? Like I say all the time, man, the solution for everything is game. And, it's no secret that I've resorted to certain drastic measures when being disrespected out there. If you know, you know. But in 2025, that's why I say all the time, man, in the words of Sinful the P, it's best to observe and stay preserved until you see who deserves your time. Because a lot of times those disrespectful chicks who talk to you in that way, a lot of times it's a situation where you seen her, you found her attractive, or you seen some potential with her and you immediately start shooting your shot at her, right? But if you take time and just sit back and observe before you shoot your shot, a lot of times there will be some sort of indication that this ain't your type of chick, right? She looks like your type of chick, but if you just take a moment to sit back and observe her behavior, she's going to show you by the way that she conducts herself that she's not your type of chick, right? So instead of dealing with the disrespect, this is how you avoid the disrespect so that you don't have to deal with it. Just avoid it, and you avoid it by, just observing, paying attention, and a lot of times it won't take long for a chick to show you that she's not really your type, beautiful trash. It's a lot of it out there. Because you don't want to just be shooting in the dark. You want to shoot your shot effectively. You want to shoot your shot at somebody who is worthy of having your shot at them. You want to shoot your shot at somebody who you can potentially build with, somebody who's going to listen to you, somebody who don't feel like they know it all, somebody who wants to learn, who wants to grow, who wants to evolve, who wants to build. That's who you want to shoot your shot at. You don't want to shoot your shot at just any old scallywag that's just out there, no matter how good they look. Guess who? The reluctant YouTuber. Good looking with the $2 holla. Guess who? The reluctant YouTuber on YouTube says, Freeze, check out my song called Campaigning. Okay. Let me, okay, I had to screenshot that so I could make note of it. You dig? But I'll check you out, though. I like the title already. Campaigning. You dig? Yeah, man. Sexy Slim, the guy that says, listen, I was born but not raised in the IE. I moved a lot and in and out of in and out of foster care. And then you said, prevented right. I hate walking on eggshells. No, I haven't been in the 909 since elementary. Okay. Delisha in the house. What's up with it, Delisha? That's why I'm not as hard as the girls in the IE. You said the girls in the IE is always hard. You come talking your trash, they'll pull your card. uh, 214 Southside, good looking with the $5 holla. Can you drop a live on game you peeped when you were in the joint? Uh, I don't know if you mean like as far as how to conduct yourself in there. Yeah, and I ain't talked in a long time about my jail experiences. Uh, I had a video that I did years ago called LA County Jail Tales, but if I remember correctly, I think I took that video off the channel. Uh, but yeah, I ain't spoke on my jail experiences in a minute. But yeah, I could do that. She said it again. The girls in the IE is always hard. You come talking your trash, they'll pull your card. The IE is a rough place, though. That's for sure. You know, everybody always think of LA when they think of like dangerous places in Southern California. But the IE, I would say the IE is probably more dangerous than LA. But it's a different kind. It's just a different kind of element, though. Uh, I think the IE is more violent, but then it's smaller too. It's a different element out there. But the IE is definitely dangerous though, for sure. It goes down out there for sure. Eric Garrett says IE and San Bernardino, the new ghetto. Laugh out loud. South Central too expensive to gang bang. Nah, it ain't the new ghetto. The IE and San Bernardino been the ghetto for a long time, but you right about that. All the gentrification is South Central. South Central ain't even South Central no more, damn near. You know, and it's definitely expensive, though. The Quality Show says, hey, Freeze, what do you think about the track in Brooklyn? I don't know about the track in Brooklyn from experience, but from what I hear, you know, it's pros and cons. You know, I think you just got to know where you at, man, and you know who to be around and who not to be around, man. But you know, it'd be a lot of tricky individuals around there, from what I hear, though. So just got to be careful. Correct Vision says they shot my car up on Baseline by the high school. Oh, you talking about in the IE? Yeah, I can see it for sure. yeah, the IE is just like, it's just like I say, it's just different. I can't really describe, you know, the difference between it in LA as far as like the danger part, like why it's so dangerous out there. Suppose the Prince says for a few years that baseline used to be cool until they moved over to F Street, I think. G Street, G and H, I think. But yeah, I remember back in the days when they was playing baseline too. I never really been a big fan of San Bernardino though. Like the track out there, it's like, I don't know. I know them local cats be around there on they bullshit. And I know the money probably can be good at times, but it's just other places that I prefer. Then it's so far out the way. Like if you live out that way, then it's probably cool. But if you coming from the city or LA County or something like that, it's far. Now, if it's a situation where, the other areas is hot, it's cool to have as another option, but I don't know. Let me see. But yeah, man, we're going to end up wrapping this thing on up in just a minute. I might end up doing a part 2 to this, man, because it's a lot of stuff that I didn't cover. Even though we covered a lot of things about campaigning with other gentlemen, it's a lot that we didn't cover too. So I don't know, maybe on a later date we might end up doing a part 2. 3 for the Lolo says, in NY it's trouble for the folks and tricks. They let the 304 keep the money and arrest the tricks. Damn. That's cold-blooded. Yeah, because I thought that I'm pretty sure that it's probably still like that where they not arresting the 304s in New York. Seattle messed that up. Seattle was like that, but all the nonsense going on up there. Supposedly alleged pimps, having shootouts in broad daylight on camera and all that type of stupid shit. Them type of people ain't got no business in the game, man. Hopefully they go find something else to do with they silly ass. Yeah, man, we're going to go ahead and wrap this thing on up. As always, I appreciate y'all for tuning in and tapping in with a pimp. If you ain't wiped your feet off at the door when you stepped into a pimp's domain, please do so before you leave a pimp's domain. Hit that like button. And, as always, I appreciate y'all for sharing this video. I appreciate you for all your questions, comments, input, feedback, jokes, all that good stuff. I appreciate you for subscribing and hitting the bell when you subscribe. I appreciate all the super chats, the cash apps, the PayPals. I appreciate your support in every which way that you comes with it, man. Y'all already know who it is and what it is. Freeze is it. If you out in traffic moving around, please do so in a safe fashion. And of course, as always, long live the incomparable Sinful the P. We out.